Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our police in Kenya have closed off key roads leading into the capital, Nairobi, ahead of planned nationwide protests marking 2 years since the deadly anti-government demonstrations of June 2024. The protests, which was sparked by proposed tax hikes, culminated in the storming of Parliament and forced the government to withdraw the controversial finance bill. More than 80 people were killed and dozens were injured during the unrest, making it one of the deadliest periods of civil protest in the country's recent history. And for more on this, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Kenya, Daniel Ominde. Daniel, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on the show.
Now, Daniel, we understand that commuters were left stranded this morning after security forces blocked access to the city centre. And this is while many buses and schools, businesses, I beg your pardon, and schools remain closed. Could you brief us on just the situation in Nairobi at the moment?
So from today in the morning, very early in the morning, commuters who are trying to get their way into the central business districts from as early as around 4:15 a.m. local time were unable to do that because they encountered barriers across major arteries and main highways that lead into the central Nairobi district. We had travelers who traveling overnight from far-flung parts of the country as they are normal, going about their normal businesses, people coming from up country, people coming from the coast, vehicles ferrying goods and people into the city. They were not able to move into from around 20 kilometers away from the city. There were barriers that's blocking those that sort of traffic, and that has gone on for most parts of the morning. We're seeing as it goes to around 8 a.m., 9 a.m., we're seeing them starting to allow trucks that are carrying goods that are going destined for various parts of the country to go through those barricades, but they're still not allowing private motorists. They're not allowing buses that are carrying commuters into the central business district. We've also seen the streets around Nairobi, the capital city, really deserted, very minimal human presence. Most of the basic businesses in the CBD are closed out of fear that there may be clashes between the police and the protesters, or even, and as we've seen in the recent past, goons hijacking the situations and using that opportunity to cause to steal and even cause other lawlessness that's around the central business district.
Now, Daniel, there are reports that several activists have been arrested after a standoff between Gen Z protesters and Kenya's police. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, this is what we're going into. So we actually saw members of the civil society, some politicians from the opposition alignment, managed to make their way into the CBD from a nearby hotel, and they came with their supporters. They came with families of some of the victims of that 2024 protest that you just referred to in your introduction. And so scores of those have been arrested, and police have also forced to use tear gas to disperse the crowds of the pockets of protesters that were there in town at that particular place. Several have been arrested. The police commandant for Nairobi has actually confirmed that arrests have been made, though he's saying that at this point it's difficult to give numbers because it's an ongoing operation, and they will be able to tell us exactly the evening for those how many have been arrested. They've been really non-committal in terms of telling us the reasons why the people they were arrested, why they've arrested them, because protests are actually a right that's enshrined in the Kenyan constitution. And so some of them are saying the process was properly notified. Those are notices that was given to the police, the Inspector General of the police, but their interpretation that particular notice needed to have been given to the jurisdictional police commanders other than the police boss, the overall police boss himself. So we are waiting to see what grounds they will have when they come give us an update later on in the evening about why they made those particular arrests.
And what reaction are you seeing on the ground, or just comments and responses from just ordinary citizens of Nairobi, reacting to not only the road closures and security measures, but just going through the motions of what they experienced in 2024?
The reactions are mixed. It's a mixed bag of reactions. So on one end, we have ordinary members of the public who are looking at this from the point of view that today should have been a very solemn day in the history of this country, looking back at what happened in 2025, where we lost up to 80 people. Last year's commemoration, we saw us lose another 27 people. So it was supposed to be a moment for reflection, a moment for introspection, and a moment to just remember those who departed, those who were injured. Remember, this is also happening in the context where the government has started a process of compensating those who've lost their lives and properties and even been injured through government or police brutality, and they've set aside about 2 billion Kenyan shillings for that. And where people who lost their lives and their families are being compensated a flat payout of 3 million Kenyan shillings. That's approximately 23,000 US dollars. But they're saying that compensation in itself is not enough. They need to seek accountability from the side of the individual police officers who actually pulled the trigger and caused death, so that they see them in court, and that's when they'll say that justice has been done. On the other hand, we have people who want to go about their businesses. We have business people. We have employees. We have people doing different kinds of jobs who have been greatly impacted by their inability to access the central business district in Nairobi. And
Yeah.
in other
Well,
parts of the
Daniel,
country that have also
we
been
have run out of
hindered by
time
this.
and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you for having me on the show.
That's our correspondent in Kenya, Daniel Ominde, joining us on the line. It is 22 after 12 Central African Time.
Channel